Hi and welcome to the Open edition of the preview show. This week obviously we have the Open at Carnoustie. First time it's been held here at Carnoustie since 2007, where Padraig Harrington won, and of course the scene of the epic Jean van der Velde meltdown in 1999, ultimately leading in Paul Lawrie's win. So it's a course that has a lot of history, a lot of pedigree, widely known as the most difficult course on the Open Rota, and boasts apparently the hardest 4 holes in major championship golf, and that's 15 through to 18. So the guys are in for a fantastic treat this week, as are we, the viewers and the spectators. And I think for me, probably one of the most open majors that I can certainly remember for a long time. And I think that's down to a couple of reasons. I think obviously first and foremost you have the fact that the talent pool currently in the game of golf is just so strong at the minute. There are so many people that could win any event on any week. And then you throw into the mix that the Open is always the most, dare I say, open of major championships. I think almost anybody, as we've seen over the years, almost anybody can win this event, whether you're Jordan Spieth last year as a relative young gun, winning the event to the year beforehand where Henrik Stenson held off Phil Mickelson in the Battle of the 40-year-olds. And then, of course, you've got the randoms of Ben Curtis and Todd Hamilton and sort of the 2000s that seemingly won this event from nowhere. So it always throws in some interesting results. You always get one or two of the very best in the world who are contending. So to me, it's a fabulous event. And I think even more so this year with the conditions that they're going to be facing, both on the course and the weather itself, I think it's anyone's to win effectively at this stage. So let's talk about the conditions just quickly. So Carnoustie is playing fast and very firm. The fairways are just running ridiculously quickly. I mean, anybody who obviously lives here in the UK, and if you don't, it's been dry as hell here for about 2 months, particularly for our standards, and the ball is just running and running and running. You'll see on social media, I think Brandt Snedeker posted a drive over 450 yards the other day. And bearing in mind, he's one of the shorter, in inverted commas, shorter drivers on tour. Just gives you some idea of just how far some of these drives are running out. I think there was some stat going around, somebody hit an 8-iron 290 yards as well. So it's just running and running and running. What that'll mean is it's going to come down to strategy. So whilst the rough isn't crazy at Carnoustie, again, that's down to the weather. It's not very lush. Just by virtue of not being much rain. So even if you go in the rough, it's playable, but there are certain areas where out of bounds will be in play. And so just making sure that you don't run through the fairway and then out of bounds is going to be quite important. And obviously there's some of the burns to be aware of throughout the course, particularly in that closing stretch of 4 holes. So strategy is going to be absolutely fundamental here. And then throw in the weather. So the weather's going to be relatively placid by Scottish standards this week. I think we're probably looking like 18 to 20 degrees and wind between sort of 5 to 15 miles an hour. So nothing really too taxing for the pros. I think looking at the tee times and the conditions over the first couple of days, I think if you're in you've got an early tee time on Thursday morning and therefore late tee time on Friday, you've probably got the better side of the draw, but there's not going to be a great deal in it, and not like some years where it can obviously change 20-30 miles an hour depending on whether you're starting at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, and then obviously vice versa on the Friday. That being said, it is Scotland, weather could change in an instant, so we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out. As I kind of touched on a couple of times, it's been quite interesting sort of doing my research into who I think is going to do well here and who I'm going to tip and so on. I literally went around the houses. I could make a case for pretty much anybody in the top sort of 10 to 15 names, on whether it's on the world rankings or bookies lists of who's going to win. And ultimately, I think there's going to be a couple of different strategies at play. I think the long hitters are going to try and hit over everything, and they're going to obviously aim to get it in the fairway, but if they go in the rough, that's okay. They'll wedge it in from there. So I do think we'll still see a lot of drivers, but I think also the other play for some of the shorter hitters who will just put the ball in the right places around the course, they'll also be in place. And I think the reason why I touch on that last point is I think for someone like Tiger, this is where he's going to win another major. If he's going to win another major, it's going to be at the Open when it is baked, because strategically I don't think there's anybody else better in golf than him, and he doesn't have to play his driver, which will get him into trouble. He can play his 2-iron everywhere, or play long irons off the tee, and we all know how good he is. He's the greatest iron player of all time. And whilst he's had some putting woes this year, don't forget the greens here at the Open are slow, and particularly slow in comparison to the PGA Tour. Not slow necessarily for us amateurs, but they are slow for these guys. And so therefore, being a great putter isn't a huge advantage here at the Open. And in fact, if you're a lesser putter, then you can almost get away with it a little bit more here. So with that in mind, my prediction for winner this week, I was very tempted to go with a strategic play. I am going for a bomber, and I am going for Rory. I don't really know why I'll go for Rory, if I'm honest, based on his most recent form. But he's done incredibly well over the Open in the last 3 times he's played. He's had top 5s the last 3 times he played, including a win at Royal Liverpool in 2014, I remember rightly. Obviously he didn't play 2015 because that's when he was playing football and broke his ankle. He's a phenomenal player, drives a ball a country mile. I've heard in a couple of places this week he's just going to take the driver every way he can and just make the course as short as humanly possible, which is his strength in fairness. So as long as the wedge plays all right and you get the putter running, I think he's going to turn up this week. He is going to win more majors, and I would love it. I would love it to be him this week. Not only for him, I think it would just put off the detractors. I think it would be great for the European Ryder Cup team. We've had enough Americans winning majors over the last 18 months or so. But I think he's got the game, and obviously he clearly likes links golf. And I think the other fact that I do like him is it's not too windy. He's not great with a lot of wind, but with a little bit of wind, he's pretty solid. And I think with the greens playing slow, that will play to his strengths as well. So that's my pick for winner this week. As I said, I could have gone in so many different areas, so many different directions, but I had to put my flag in the sand somewhere, so Rory's got it. In terms of each way bets, well, an obvious one would be Jordan Spieth. That'd be boring. I'm not going to give you that. I do think, though, if you want to probably make some money, Jordan Spieth each way is a pretty good bet, but I'm going to try and give you somebody with a bit more value, a couple of guys with a bit more value. And these are guys with pedigree of liking fast and firm conditions. That's Jason Day, 33-1, and his Australian buddy Mark Leishman at 45-1. Both these guys made their livings and were brought up on the Sandbelt in Australia. They like fast and firm, linksy type conditions. Alistair Mackenzie courses, very similar to obviously what was originally designed up in Scotland. So they know these types of conditions. On Leishman in particular, the PGA Tour introduced kind of a linksy event in Dallas at Trinity Forest. He came second there. He's somebody who's got the creative game. His iron play is phenomenal. Sometimes gets himself into trouble, a bit like Tiger with the driver, can get himself into trouble off the tee. But again, he doesn't need to do that necessarily here at this event. And short game is spectacular. Not as spectacular as Jason Day, which is why I've put him in here. Short game, I think, this week, and I know it's the same for every week, but in particular this week is going to be key. And there's no one better on tour than him with short game. Scrambling, putting is phenomenal. And he does pretty well at the Open. He obviously was very close in 2015 at St Andrews before he just parred himself out of the competition, that back nine where everyone else was birdieing everything. So he's got pedigree here in the Open. He's a class act. He's obviously won a couple of times already this year on the PGA Tour, so back in some form. And he is under the radar. And I think he likes that. So I would expect him to do pretty well this week. In terms of outsiders, I'm going to give you 3. I've gone Andy Sullivan, 100-1. Did done pretty well over the last couple of months on the European Tour. Did well at Scottish Open and the Irish Open. He's showing a bit of form. I remember seeing him at Troon and at Royal Birkdale and on a couple of practice rounds, and I had the chance to have a quick chat with him. He loves links golf. He's good at shaping the ball. He can be tenacious and he can score. I don't know why. I just quite like him to have a good week this week. 100, I think he's 100 to 1. Not a bad sort of long shot odds. I don't expect him to win, but I can see him sneaking kind of a top 5, top 8, which most bookies are paying out on. A couple of names to look out for. I'm going to give you a young American who's perhaps maybe not so familiar to many sort of just casual golf viewers. Luke List, 125 to 1. Nearly won his maiden event on the PGA Tour this year, just losing out to Justin Thomas. He's played quite a bit of links golf. His dad introduced him to links golf as a teenager, so he's played quite a lot of links golf over the years, really enjoys it, came over and did very well on a couple of the last events we've had on the European Tour. So he's been acclimatised to the conditions over here. He hits the ball a mile, and he's great scrambling around the green. So those two combinations are probably going to work pretty well this week. So for him, 125 to 1, and I just like him. I feel he's somebody that can make a nice next sort of step over the next 6 to 12 months, and I don't see why he can't do it here at this major. So 125 to 1, he's certainly worth looking out for. And then the other person that again has got major pedigree, he's not really talked about. He's not played fabulously well, but he always tends to turn up in the majors. That's Charles Schwartzel. He's 150 to 1. He's done all right at the Open previously. Obviously won the Masters a few years ago. He tends to sort of be a bit of a, let's call it a big game hunter. Turns up in the bigger events. Obviously likes the pressure, likes the conditions. He's got a great swing. I can't tell you why, but I like him for this week. He's played pretty well over the last month or so, or certainly better. Showed some signs of form. And again, I think for someone like him, and particularly if you're looking at something like DraftKings, he's a cheaper option that I would certainly have in there because we know he can score well. So those are kind of some of my outsider bets. As I say, this week, more so than any other week, I think has been like the most challenging for me to try and choose some picks because I could have gone in so many different directions. I didn't even mention Tommy Fleetwood, who obviously has a course record here at Carnoustie, which was 63 at the Dunhill Links last year. I haven't even talked about DJ or JT, both of which could do all right this year. Ricky Fowler tends to do pretty well in the Open, did well at Scottish Open. And then throw in Russell Knox, playing some of the best golf of his career, won the Irish Open a couple of weeks ago. It's just so many different ways that this could go. I think we're in for a fabulous week. Whoever wins is going to have to be lucky. There's no two ways about that. They're going to have to scramble particularly well. And I just think we're in for a fabulous week. Let's just hope that we get some big names at the top, a couple of surprises, and more importantly, not too many disasters. All right. As always, welcome your picks below. Comments, tell me what you think of mine. If you're going up there, enjoy it. I hope the weather stays good for you. And look forward to obviously doing a recap next week sometime. Cheers for now. Bye.